Welcome, everybody. Welcome to episode number 126 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I am your host, Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. We call these episodes Fraternity Foodie because there is nothing like great food to bring people together. Today on the show, we have college recruitment specialist Hannah Haulsee from Delta Gamma's executive offices. Hannah is skilled in communication, college recruiting, risk management, and organizational development. And she is here today to tell us about how our chapters and our councils within fraternity and sorority life can evaluate and elevate your social media presence. Welcome to the show, Hannah.
Hi, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? This is going to be so much fun. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Same. I've been just amping up for this moment right here.
This is the moment. It is what it is right here. So I want to make sure that all of our listeners know a little bit more about you, because I think you have so much great information to share with them that's really going to help them quite a bit. You chose the University of Southern Mississippi for your undergraduate experience. So we're all wondering, why USM?
Yes, well, ironically too, I have my Southern Miss coffee mug right here ready. So good segue here. Yeah, I'm from Mississippi originally, so I knew kind of realistically that out-of-state tuition was not going to be, an option for me. It wasn't feasible. So and I kept stating and restating kind of during this time that I really wanted to be big fish in little ponds. That was kind of what I was looking for. I was kind of scared to get lost, I think, in the larger university environment. So that was something that was really enticing for me for Southern Miss compared to the other institutions in state. But kind of a big factor was received a scholarship that was really service and leadership based. And so there were lots of checkpoints of accountability throughout my college experience, required mentorship, citizenship, seminars, and required service. So I knew that was something I wanted in my college experience, and was happy to receive financial assistance to be doing that. But I think the kind of reason why, Southern Miss really stuck for me was, I think that the feeling of the Southern Miss spirit that was there. And I think I would hope that most people feel when they step on that campus. I think there's just endless possibilities, or that feeling that there's connections at every corner. And I loved and am a big cheesy fan of this idea that Southern Miss students hear right when they get on campus, which is your kind of challenge as a student is to leave Southern Miss better than you found it. I like the idea of knowing that the university is not perfect. They kind of own that for students and challenge you when you find those imperfections to leave it better. And what I found even more unique now as a graduate is that challenge still speaks to me about the university. So I'm no longer a student there, but when I think about something at Southern Miss and I think about making it better, that challenge still exists for me. And so I find that really motivational, and it really stuck.
I love that you take that responsibility on yourself to leave Southern Miss better than you found it. I think that is profound and brilliant. I talk to fraternity and sorority members all the time about that exact statement, that we have a responsibility, not only in Southern Miss, but as fraternity and sorority leaders, that we have to leave our chapter and our university, our host institution, better than we found it. That's the responsibility that comes with wearing those letters across your chest. And I talk about that all the time. You obviously have it instilled in you, which I think is wonderful. But we're all privileged to go to these institutions of higher education, and I feel like that is our responsibility, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think about instances when it's tough, talk about hazing, and it's like, well, this was my experience. We always did it this way. And it's this idea of maybe you found it this way. Maybe this is what you stepped into. Maybe you didn't create this culture for yourself, but it's your challenge to leave it better, to switch that curve and to really make a difference there. So I agree. I think it's that challenge can be found at every aspect of our collegiate experience, and then really even more so in the fraternity and sorority experience.
Totally. You were very involved on campus, and obviously that involved Delta Gamma and also Panhellenic Council as well. So why was Delta Gamma the best place for you on campus in terms of a student organization?
Yeah, I feel like authentic is going to be the buzzword here, that we might be hearing 10 or 15 times more as we continue. But I really think it was the authentic people I spoke to, that were Delta Gammas. I can remember almost everybody I spoke to. I participated in primary recruitment. So there was a lot of people I spoke to, that I can remember almost every single person from round one all the way through preference, that final round. And it was people like Peyton, who I felt like in that first interaction was somebody I knew already and I knew known for a while. And people like Sophie, who was so confident and just really embodied this idea that sorority didn't have to be so serious all the time. It could be fun. And then women like Myra, who totally reshaped what I thought of. And I thought about a courageous woman. And when I thought of a sorority woman. And so kind of all these people, added them into this bucket and really recognize kind of what I thought Delta Gamma membership might be like. And I really was looking to dive in and provide mentorship, to be given mentorship. I knew I wanted long-term to be a part of leadership roles. And so I knew that the women in Delta Gamma saw leadership potential in me, which I thought was really important, and knew they would help me kind of carve out some avenues to be in leadership roles, which ultimately led me to Panhellenic. And I wouldn't say my sorority experience was perfect. I don't think anybody probably would, but I'm able to really recognize that special privilege that was at 18 saying yes to Delta Gamma fraternity. I'm lucky that I like my national organization, and I'm lucky to be a part of something that I think is making a difference. I made that commitment at 18, but I also was really privileged to be a Delta Gamma at Southern Miss, because I think it made my sphere of influence much larger than it probably ever could have been in college.
You're doing good with Delta Gamma, and the reason why is authenticity, folks. So for all of our listeners, Hannah was not watching a video of, I don't know, a speedboat in Miami as the typical recruitment video process. It was authentic connections. Focus on that, ladies and gentlemen, and you too will be successful in getting women like Hannah into your organization.
You said it. It definitely was not. If anything, the videos kind of detracted, some interest there of, oh, I don't know if I would enjoy being on a boat like that, or, like, can I swim? Some of those questions that may arise that way. So yes, the buzzword of this and of the future, and hopefully the continued progress, is those authentic connections.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen. And you've worked now for Delta Gamma's executive offices for a few years as both collegiate development consultant and also a collegiate recruitment specialist. So talk to our audience a little bit about what you do in these positions and what are some of the highlights of working for your headquarters?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I could probably use this entire time to talk about the highlights and benefits, specifically that first job, that collegiate development consultant. I mean, I'm still unpacking lessons that I learned from that job several years ago. And I'm pretty convinced it's the best job I'll ever have. I like my job now, but I'm pretty convinced it'll be the best job. I, in that role, traveled every 4 to 6 days to different Delta Gamma chapters. We were equipped with skills to build quick and trusting relationships with people. We had to have a portfolio of resources, so programs and the directions to handbooks and things like that, and also be equipped to provide, solutions to problems that maybe weren't so common or, were really unique to that campus. So I've learned so much in that job, and I feel like it really shaped me and shaped my career path to what it is now, which is that recruitment specialist role. I obviously travel way less frequently than every 4 to 6 days. I'm grateful to have some stability there, but my role now is really to support chapters with their recruitment statistics. So I review all of our chapters' statistics, create reports and analyze that information, and then really help them learn that, how to break that down, make it make sense, and then how to implement some changes and strategies. And I would say most of my focus lately has been really around how do we make the membership selection process more equitable and inclusive? I think that's something we've always cared about, but I think there's just a new focus and importance with that. So I love working. I think it's so great. It's wonderful to work mostly with other sorority fraternity men. Most of our staff are, not all are Delta Gammas, and so that's always been fun too, to learn from different Panhellenic women and the skills and the experiences they have, and how we can combine those and really help make an impact on both the collegiate membership, where I mostly work, but also the alumni membership as well.
Hopefully your words are going to encourage more women and more men to think about working for their executive offices. I know certainly for me, it was also a life-changing experience. I'm still unpacking that experience as executive director, after leaving in 2015. So now it's been 6 years, and I'm still unpacking that experience of visiting all of our chapters around the country. And it certainly has given me focus in terms of what I want to do from this point forward and how I can make the biggest impact. And so certainly, the programming that we're doing around the country is a part of that. Certainly the podcast is a part of that, wanting to build this database of leaders such as yourself for fraternity and sorority members to learn from. And then we have another big announcement that's going to be coming out in March that I think is going to change the game for Greek University. So there's a lot of exciting things happening, but none of that is possible without me working for the executive offices and learning from that and figuring out how do I take that experience and kind of, just blow that up in a big way and make as much impact as I possibly can, not only for our members, but just to credit all of fraternity and sorority life, and for our children, for my children, and everybody else to come that's going to be coming through our organizations in the future. So I totally get the unpacking part of it, and I think you're going to continue to get lessons from that for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and I hope so. And I just listening to you say that, I just keep thinking, you don't know what you don't know. And so I think that the work that you're doing and Greek University is doing to really help bridge that gap is really important. And just, we all have so much to learn from one another. And, thinking about what you're saying about, in future generations, and as we hope this continues, I think that's so important that we, not only we don't know what we don't know, but we have so much to learn from one another. And so I appreciate that's the steps we're taking today.
Amen. I have so much to learn. I learned so much working for the headquarters and learning, what people do on recruitment, and then taking that and then saying, okay, now I'm going to do a virtual recruitment, knowing what I learned on headquarters, right? And there was no pandemic back then in 2015, but I'm taking that information and then doing virtual recruitment and having a ton of success on campuses now. So yeah, it's just, it's amazing what you learn, marketing and the national magazine, things that you never would dream about having influence on, but you learn a lot of lessons along the way. And certainly it has benefited my career quite a bit. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity. And hopefully more of our audience will get that kind of an experience. Now, you had this great blog post that you wrote about elevating, or I should say evaluating and elevating your chapter's social media. And so many of the chapters that I work with across the country are really struggling right now with social media. And I am sure that it is related to the pandemic. It's related to the anxiety and the stress that students are going through right now. So I'm wondering, what made you want to write this particular blog post?
Yeah. Admittedly, I am, as a person, pretty opinionated, specifically about our collegiate sorority, marketing efforts, or really just fraternal marketing efforts as well. And to kind of their credit, it's really difficult. I don't think it's easy. If it was, and everybody would do it, the way in which we all dream that some of this content could be, really successful. So I think it's difficult. And on top of that, I think it's a competitive environment. And so for work, I analyze where our new members learn about Delta Gamma. So we asked them, where did you learn about Delta Gamma? And I looked at the statistic before we hopped on here. I'm going to find it, make sure I get it right. 88% of our new members that completed the survey said that they learned about Delta Gamma from the chapter's Instagram. Wow. 88% of our new members. And so I was like, okay, that they're getting all their information there. It's no longer the days of everybody's focused on Greek rank, or the website has to, the video. They're learning these things from the Instagram, and a lot of these people are following these accounts well before recruitment, and this is where they're getting their information, and deciding whether or not sorority membership is for them. We also get feedback from these new members that tell us where they learn that they're impressed with other sororities' Instagram accounts sometimes. And so I think that creates, again, that competitive nature of, okay, well then what are they doing? And it kind of makes your heart pump and your brain moves quickly and you start thinking, about how to compare your account to others. So I'm reading this information and thinking about this, and knowing that we're in an age of influencers, and knowing that influencers that kind of create the highlight reels of their life and their experiences with different products or different aspects of their life, they have gone a lot further than those that have been a little more authentic, sharing content. So recognizing kind of all these outside, influences, no pun intended there for the influencers, but, recognizing all these things, I really was starting to recognize how it impacted retention. So we obviously track too why members resign, and really just thinking through all of the data that's out there from so many different organizations that have tracked misaligned expectations around, sorority and fraternity membership, resignation rates, knowing that social media was probably where they were learning a lot about their expectations, and we were really misaligning it. And so I thought of the idea of this member on a beach, enjoying, the water. And I think, man, that's what people think. They're going to go to the Bahamas, they're going to fly on a plane with their best friends, and they're just going to lay out by the pool, and that's it. And then when they get held accountable for a, behavior that was, either harmful to them or somebody else, they're disappointed because they're like, that's not really what I was interested in. I was interested in that highlight reel that you shared with me, this idea that I'd be going on mountain trips and beach trips. And so I was really recognizing that we were creating this misalignment through our social media accounts. And so I wanted to write about that because I knew it was difficult, but I also kind of wanted to address that we're kind of setting ourselves up for these retention failures here when we're not being intentional about our social media.
Wow, that is so profound. We are setting ourselves up for failure with our social media. I love that you just came out and just said it, which is so true. If 88% of our new members find out about our organizations from the chapter social media account, and all we're posting are pictures on the beach or pictures snowboarding, then every new member is going to assume that that is daily life as a member of Delta Gamma, or name your organization, because everybody is doing that, right? And so that sets up for failure, because now when they leave and we do the survey on the back end to figure out why they left, they tell us misaligned expectations. They were expecting X and instead they got Y. That is a really important concept for every fraternity and sorority member to understand Hannah's words when she says that, because we really have to rethink how we're approaching social media and make sure that it's realistic, and it really reflects what is happening on a daily basis within our organization and how we're making a difference in our community. If it's just the social events, the beach, and snowboarding, then we've got a problem. We've got a major problem. So thank you for sharing that blog post. I think that's fascinating. And I'll put a link to that in the description of the video so people can go directly and read your blog post. How often should chapters evaluate their social media accounts, and what's the process that you usually follow for evaluation?
Yeah, so I wrote that blog post through my volunteer role as a NPC content, so National Panhellenic Conference content creator. So through their kind of recommendations, minimally, they say once a year that you should be evaluating. I live in we're not shooting for the minimum here, right? So I live in the space of quarterly. I think at minimum would be my personal Hannah Haulsee recommendation, to set chapters up for success. I think about how often individuals evaluate their own accounts. So thinking about especially college age students, how often you review kind of your own feed and your own timeline, wondering, what do people think when they get on this? Is this photo, does this match what else is in my feed? We evaluate our own social media pretty consistently. And so I think to evaluate if you're in charge of a Panhellenic Instagram account, or your own chapter Instagram account, or a fraternity Instagram account, I think that there's some room to kind of up how often you evaluate it. My process, which developed as a consultant, again, because we're unpacking all those lessons as we go, is to go to the Instagram account and pull it up where you see the grid, so 12 photos all at once. And just looking at the photos, what is it that these 12 photos tell you about the organization or tell you about the values that this group has? And I think it's easy when it's your group because you know what your group values, you know what's important to your group. So are you seeing that on those 12 photos? The very first time we ever did this activity, I was visiting a chapter, and I remember that the woman I was meeting with said that their chapter really valued scholarship. And I totally believed them. I remember walking through to find chapter meetings. There's people studying all the time. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, do y'all do anything else besides, it was truly, they were always studying. And I thought it was so wonderful. And when you go to their social media account, you really didn't get any sense that academics was super important to them. I thought that was so weird because I'm living and watching this chapter prioritize their education over everything. It was a recruitment visit. So lots of members came in late with no penalty because they were studying or they had a test or they were doing something academically related, and the chapter was so considerate. And I remember thinking, if I'm a PNM, I have no idea, a potential new member, I would have no idea that that's something your chapter cares about, because your chapter was posting about this hot balloon festival, which I think is great, content too, not hating on people attending a balloon festival, please don't come at me. But, I just was thinking that nobody's really getting that sense from you. And so we did that. And I remember it's one of my proudest consultant moments when 3 weeks later, they posted some kind of content around the member studying, those members who had just achieved their first 4.0. And I remember thinking yes, that's the content we need, is celebrating other women who are meeting a standard of excellence in academic worlds. And so I think that's my kind of philosophy around it is go through those 12 photos about 4 times a year, look at them and see, what story is this telling? I would encourage you to go to your own personal one. That's what I do. If I look at my 12, what do people who don't know me think about me when they see these? And sometimes I'll go to chapters that I know really well and say, I'm going to go to their account. And do I get the sense that what they believe in and who they are is shown on those 12 photos?
So smart. So, all right. So we're going to get rid of the beach pictures. We're going to get rid of the snowboarding pictures. And you mentioned, I think, the academic or the scholarship photo. I think that's an excellent idea right there. Are there any other examples of stories that we can share on social media for our chapter other than, let's say, academics?
Yeah, this is the fun stuff for me. I love ideas and thinking through, and I would hope that those that are in charge or listening to this will think through kind of the finally getting the permission to think outside of the box you've always kind of envisioned fraternity and sorority to be. So there's a handful of accounts I follow. So that's my first step before I give some examples, is follow some other accounts if you don't already, but especially follow some accounts that you really like that can really help serve as some inspiration. So there's a couple of posts that I've seen that have been posted by other sororities and fraternities, most of which were not Delta Gammas. I just throw that out there: Panhellenic Spirit, Panhellenic Love. So I think that looking for content first and foremost that leaves you more than feeling impressed. So I would, I think we're really good at impressing people. The cool videos and views from the top of a mountain, neat. The standard of beauty that we put kind of as our, our attractiveness as our kind of forefront. We're good, we have good looking members, right? And they go to good looking places. We all know that. So looking for content that is outside of that, impressed feeling. And so my favorite post, so I had to pick one, was this 2 members, they were in a hospital. So one member was in a hospital gown and one member was just in a t-shirt, and this member had to get her gallbladder. No, it was her appendix. Her appendix removed all of a sudden. And it was her and another chapter member sitting there smiling, and the story was about just being there for one another. And I remember thinking, well, I've never had a friend have their appendix removed, never sat in the hospital with somebody, but I can relate to being there for somebody, right? When they're in their most vulnerable state. And I've also been a member where I've been in a really vulnerable state and somebody has really been there for me. So I'm able to really make that connection with that story of something that's really authentic. Now, not everybody's going to have a member in the hospital story, and let's hope everybody stays safe and healthy. So kind of the other one I thought of was this chapter. It was these chapter members in the chapter facility they were at. It was 3 members on the couch. And they had these big goofy grins, and the caption was talking about what's really happening behind the door of the chapter house. And it was just them like on the couch, like one person had a blanket almost completely over their head like a hood, and you could just tell. No one told me they were laughing, but I know they're laughing, and they're doing that deep belly laugh because they are just these goofy grins happening, and they're almost showing you like a behind the scenes of, maybe you saw our chapter house and you see us always, smiling or always doing this kind of uniformed look. But here we are. This is what's actually happening is we're sitting on our chapter couch. We are laughing at, something somebody said, and we're not really worried about all the kind of aesthetics happening around us, right? Like our couch isn't perfectly organized. The pillows aren't in the right spot. So I love that. And then my final recommendation is, I've always been a huge fan of the kind of comment below type posts where we talk about a member. So, here's Michael, like comment below, like what you think of when you see Michael. And so people do that. My favorite was a without you post. So it's without Michael, what would there be? And so it was really cool because members commented, some really serious things like, there'd be no laughter in our chapter facility, or they said we wouldn't have won first place in that philanthropy event because this member worked so hard to help lead us through that. And then my favorite was there'd be no hot sauce because apparently this member loves hot sauce, and that she keeps their house stacked with hot sauces of all different kinds. And I think it just helped provide a deeper glimpse of kind of what their sisterhood is like. And it really helped me better understand, the type of members that they have in their organization, and really helped paint that picture a little more clearer.
Those are brilliant suggestions. I hope everybody listening is taking notes because this is just gold for social media. I'm also wondering, like, how many people should be in each one of these shots, and why is it important to avoid the solo shots and obviously things that don't correlate with our values?
Yeah, so I feel like I sometimes come down a little harsh. I'm like, no solo shots ever. And I recognize that there's a time and a place. We just tend to abuse the time and the place of the solo shot. So I think having, groups of, you want to be able to see their faces, right, in a post. So depending on how close, I think between 2 to 5 always, can look okay. So you can see the person's face and get a better understanding of the group, especially with some content you're really trying to be intentional around. I say no solo shots, or my ban for solo shots would be ones that don't have a purpose. So as you mentioned, kind of don't align with these values that we have. So I think when we're celebrating a member, I have this specific shot I remember seeing of a member giving a presentation of her thesis. Dressed in business attire, had a presentation up, and it looked so professional. And I thought that's really helpful because I know that chapter really values members pursuing their academic best, right? And so I remember seeing that and thinking that was a really strong post. The ones that I can think of that weren't, were the ones where somebody had sprinkles in their hands and almost like they were blowing. It's not confetti because that's different, but sprinkles in their hand. It says, it's sweet to be a insert chapter letters here, and it's like, okay, like come on, we can do better than that. But I think those solo shots, really thinking through what value add does it have on your organization. Maybe your great photos, but I think the value add, my favorite, and I hope everybody can just recognize what's wrong with this one, but it's a member on the beach by herself in a bathing suit, and the caption is good luck to everybody on finals. Also, we wish it was still this warm. And I wasn't really sure. It didn't even connect at all. Like, good luck on finals. Think about all the options you may have there when you hear, good luck on finals. And so I feel like we've gotten really good at getting good photos and inserting captions to them and instead of capturing good photos that support the captions we want to share with our audience. So I think we really reversed it. We get good photos and we think of things to say about good photos instead of thinking about what we want to say and finding good photos to support what we're saying.
Very well said. And, Instagram obviously is all about the photos. I mean, that's what takes up the bulk of the feed. But let's talk about the captions. Why is it important for us to pay attention to what's in the caption?
Yeah, I think that, kind of going back to our previous point at the very beginning, that it's the authentic connection that can really not only recruit members to your organization, but help retain them as well. And so thinking through authenticity in what we communicate, that the captions where we get to do that. If maybe we do have a really posed photo, but we really like it, then what can we say about it that can really help support the values we have? And so I think that expressing your tone matters. I can remember traveling and hearing different pockets of the United States have such prominent phrases. Even college campuses have such unique language that you almost never see in Instagram captions, because we tend to overuse maybe some quotes and some things that we've gotten really comfortable saying. This one account I can think of, I'll never forget, they referred to their sisterhood, their close group of friends, as their home team. And I thought, that's so different, because I mean, how many times have you heard sisterhood? And it's important, but we hear it a lot. And so, what are some ways that we can help, share what makes us unique, what makes everybody has sisterhood, what makes our sisterhood, everybody has brotherhood, what makes brotherhood different? And I think the caption is the place to do that. Obviously wanting to keep it within kind of some easily readable, right? So we don't want to maybe always go on and on and on in a caption, but really thinking through some easily readable captions to help support the message we want our photos to share.
That's really interesting. You're right. Sisterhood is really, it's overused almost. And if you're a PNM, you might not know what sisterhood really is yet. So hopefully home team, that is just another way, something different to talk about what kind of bond we have that maybe more people can identify with, maybe because you've been on a sports team in high school and you understand the camaraderie that exists on that team, right? And I think that's the parallel they were trying to make. And so that's really interesting to me. One of the other things that I see out there is quotes that we're using from our members to kind of display what our values really are. So what kind of quotes should we be looking for from our members that we can use on social media?
Yeah, without, being too obvious, authentic quotes are, it's always going to be our favorite. But I think, when we ask people to provide quotes or to share a story, I think we get nervous and we get a little stiff sometimes. We want to say the right thing. We want to be sure it's making the impact. We sometimes default when we're giving a quote to maybe a little more commonly used language. And so I think the first thing would be, not only finding a member you think, represents whatever value it is that you're trying to share or whatever message you want to get across. So identifying the right person for that. But then I think switching up the way in which you gather those quotes. So could you sit and have a conversation, or I know we're sometimes in a virtual world. So can you FaceTime somebody and record what they say? Just ask them like this, like in a casual conversation, what are the things you're saying, and record what they're saying so you can take notes of that and listen to what they're saying and ask them to expand while they're talking through. You can expand on those things. And so I think specifically about those common phrases that make my skin crawl about our future bridesmaids. And, and there's nothing wrong with, and sometimes that is really factual, right? Like I'm not disputing that, but really thinking through the home away from home, those feelings that we've gotten really comfortable saying that. And while they are true, and you kind of identified this before, it's hard to relate to sometimes if you're not a part of it. And
Right.
it reminds me of, there was a contest happening in my home state, and I was watching all these people post on social media. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, like this is tiresome. Like you're just reading the same stories over and over. And one was mentioning that this contest pushed them to be the better version of themselves. And I thought, man, how many times have I heard our, members say that? And what does that mean as somebody? I'm not a part of this contest. So I'm like, what does that even mean? You're better, a better version of yourself. Like, and I have the sorority experience. I should know what that's like, but because it's a different organization, it's something different than I'm connected to. It doesn't really resonate the same way. And so I really started thinking through sororities and fraternities and what we say and how we say it, and what are some of the phrases we've kind of coined and made common that really don't resonate in the way that it does to those who are already a part of our organization. And so I really could spend the whole day talking about types of quotes and who to grab quotes from and what makes quotes great. The other chapter I was talking about that used home team, the next post they started was with, "Oh man." And I just thought that was so unique to start a quote. Like, it felt like I was talking to that person and that I was getting to know them. And so, I think that there's plenty of ways. My first thing would be to identify who it is or what it is that you want to display, and then really try to have a casual conversation with them to pull those quotes, and really pay attention to that language talked about before that makes your chapter unique, but also helps people who don't really understand the fraternity and sorority experience better be able to identify with it. And so that would be my advice around kind of gathering quotes.
Yeah, I like that advice about or suggestion of, "Oh man." It's just very conversational in tone. And I think if we look at our favorite Instagram accounts, it's probably because it's conversational in tone. And that's where we need to head, I think, within fraternity and sorority. And if we do that, then we can pull them in.
Yeah, absolutely. You're totally right. My favorite influencers, or maybe the people on social media that have, millions of followers. My favorite is a sorority woman, Sarah Blakely, the creator of Spanx. And she's so funny, but it's also because, yeah, she's, hyping up her business. I guess I'm going to ask Spanx for a plug here as I'm talking about them. But then she'll show like making pancakes for her kids, and she's like, her kids are telling her, make a dinosaur. And so she's like over here trying to make a dinosaur on her griddle of pancakes. I remember thinking like the way that she communicates feels so conversational that I feel like I have a connection to her, even though I don't. And so I think you're totally right. It's that tone, it's that language, and paying attention to it. And we talk in that tone and language. So if we could just, capture that from a recording or capture that in a way that isn't so stiff and scary, I think we could really make a big impact there.
That dinosaur pancake, that is the behind the scenes footage that we are looking for on our social media accounts. Is there any behind the scenes footage that you would recommend for our fraternities and sororities that they should be looking out for?
Yeah, well, the pancake footage would be number one suggestion. There's this really specific photo I can think of, and I think about a behind the scenes photo that really captures, I think, what it's like to be a member. And it's a member, it was actually at Grand Valley State University, and it looks like that maybe the member's in a library, like study space, like one that has a door that's kind of closed off. And there's a whiteboard behind her. She has a hat on, and like a paper and like a pen in her hand, and is in a t-shirt, like nothing like our, coordinated fraternity and sorority life outfits we usually to have, like our polos or our, matching letter shirts, none of that. The only reason you can tell that person is a Delta Gamma is because the letters on their hat. And you can just see from that photo that like they've been in the library for a while, and you kind of feel inspired because you see all the equations behind that. And like, I don't really know what any of those equations are too. I work in fraternity and sorority life. I didn't get a ton of math experience beyond what I got in college. And so I remember thinking, wow, like that really helped show me like what it's like that they support that, like their academics, right? And they support them in their pursuits. And so much so that they don't care that it's not a posed photo with a laptop open, letter shirt on, and they're like kind of propped up. Like it really looks like you opened the door, snapped a photo. And so I really was thinking through like the library is such a great place. And, if you're on a library or on a campus, I know that COVID has impacted in some ways. But then I think through, other maybe a little bit easier places. So philanthropy events, if you're rehearsing for something or practicing for something, why do we only show the photos of our trophies or us in our, right after we competed, why aren't we showing the practice or the time that went into creating And so, I think that there's an opportunity, even big little. I think about all the big little, matching outfits or poses, and could we, do it right when they find out who it is, that authentic surprise look or that authentic excitement to finally get your match with your big or your little. I think that there's opportunity. My biggest advice as far as behind the scenes is think about what's on your chapter calendar, think about the big things that are happening, and think about what leads up to that. And so how can you identify spots to take photos, to grab quotes, in those moments leading up to whatever it is. So whether it's a philanthropy event, a service event, what is the behind the scenes work that's happening to get you to that event? So almost thinking backwards in your timeline.
Perfect. Well, shout out to Grand Valley for doing the right thing. They have phenomenal fraternity and sorority students on that campus, and that's why so many of them end up as professionals, Greek advisors working for their headquarters or executive offices. You see them everywhere. They're doing things the right way on that campus, no question about it. Now, we love great food here at Fraternity Foodie, so I want to know, Hannah, what is your favorite restaurant in Columbus, Ohio, and what do you order?
Wow, I'm gonna have to pick one. And this is why I'm on this podcast, really, is this is the whole point of being here, is to talk about this and to listen to what others recommend. I think that's really important. I've started a notes list. I think if I had to pick one, but I'll have an alternative should somebody need a second option. I love a restaurant called Brassica. I had a friend, I texted and I thought, how do you describe that place? And they said, a Mediterranean Chipotle style, it's not Chipotle flavor, but style restaurant. So you get to build a salad or a wrap. They have such great falafel, and then they have, eggplant and cauliflower and feta, and it's truly delicious, but it's build your own. I'm sure they have the pre-made things. I would skip that. So all the things I just said, falafel, feta, the eggplant, the cauliflower, I think I get every sauce they have on there. It comes with maybe lettuce, as the base, I'm sure, but it's really build your own. So I recommend that. Those are my favorite things to put on it, but would love if anybody's in Columbus to go with them and eat it, because I love that place so much.
I'm going to get in my car and drive to Columbus right now because you're getting me so excited with this food. The inner Israeli in me, as soon as you said falafel, I'm like, I'm in. I'm like, okay, let's go. And it's on like Donkey Kong. We're going to eat falafel all day long.
All day long. And, they have other meats, they have other things, but I couldn't even name them because I don't care. They have falafel and it's the best falafel. And so that is all I will be consuming.
I so miss that. I tell you what, I used to spend my summers in Israel and that's all I would eat for like 2 months. And now that I'm here living in Nashville, I'm like, I can't get good falafel. So if I hear a recommendation like yours, I'm getting in my car. We're going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now I'm nervous about if it's going to meet your expectations. Because I doubt it's as good as what you've had those summers, but it may be the closest you get to some good falafel.
Hey, I'll take it. I will take it. All right. So if our listeners want to connect with you, Hannah, on social media, maybe they want to ask you more questions, where should they go to connect with you?
Yeah, my Instagram is open and willing to engage too. I love also, LinkedIn. That's where I've been really kind of adding in all of my thoughts about fraternity and sorority, about leadership. I've just been really plugging there, but I know not everybody is on the LinkedIn hype train that I am currently on. So all my information is just my name, Hannah Haulsee. Find me there. I'm also happy to email with anybody ever. I really love this. My dream job is to consult like in a variety of different areas, in a variety of different places. But I love my job currently, so I'm sticking here for a while. But my email is just Hannah with an H at the end @deltagamma.org. And I would love to connect with anybody to talk about this further or talk about, the other aspects of fraternity and sorority life.
Hannah, this has been so helpful. I hope every fraternity member, every sorority member listens to your words. They will improve their social media account tenfold if they just listen to the things that you're talking about and they actually implement it. So thank you. Thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful chatting with you. And so just thank you for the work that you do at Delta Gamma and elsewhere.
Yeah, well, thanks again for letting me be here and talk about falafel, and we will talk about the important things.
That sounds wonderful. And to our audience, thank you so much for listening. Please like Hannah's talk. Please share it with other fraternity men, sorority women, other people in Delta Gamma. They have to hear what she's talking about. And we hope to see you on another episode of Fraternity Foodie. Bye for now.